What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Become the Music. My name is Gary. Hope you had a great day. Today is September 24th, and it is notable in the hard rock alternative music space for being the day when a lot of really huge album releases happened. And one of those releases is Nevermind by Nirvana, which we're going to take a look at tonight. The album needs no introduction. Everybody's heard it. Everybody knows what it's about. Fantastic record, front to back. Every song is just like on fire. Cobain just wrote the most incredible stuff. It was the thing about it. It was poppy and melodic, but also really aggressive. So it kind of appealed to everybody. It was very interesting for its time. At that time, what was big was hair metal. You know, Whitesnake and Warrant and Motley Crue and these kind of bands, right? And Cinderella, like that kind of stuff. And this album just sort of like drove the nails into the coffin of 80s hair metal. Maybe deservedly so. I don't know. There was a lot of good music back then, but I remember some musicians that I knew at the time kind of being resentful of this whole scene. They hated Nirvana, they hated Pearl Jam, they thought it was all depressing and all this kind of stuff, right? But, Kurt Cobain came out and like all the hair metal stuff is all about ego and chicks and partying and, all this kind of stuff, right? Posturing and costumes and all this sort of thing, right? And Cobain was like, no, I'm going to go out there in my street clothes and just, sing about stuff that is kind of meaningful on the street level, on my level, and sing about, feminism. And he had a lot of like, anti-racism stance and anti-homophobia stance and all that kind of stuff. He was very much into that. And, that brought a lot to the forefront for a lot of the youth that was growing up at that time. There was a lot of people out there that felt kind of disaffected by the whole hair metal. You got to be this, posturing rock god to be accepted kind of thing. And this album kind of changed all that. And you could see like, it's kind of like when the Sex Pistols released Nevermind the Bollocks back, in 77, 78, I can't remember anyways. You could see things change overnight. It was all of a sudden, boom, here's this bellwether event, this musical event that happened that had a drastic effect on society and the music business as a whole. And something else that it did in the music business was, up to that point, a lot of it was about, let's find, like an agent would go out, sign a band, and they would, build a grassroots following and try and break them slowly and, build up album sales in this market and that market and, put them around the college circuit and all this kind of stuff, right? And it would take a long time to build a band up. Nirvana came out. I mean, this is not their first record, but this album came out, and very early in their career, their second album, and it just blew the doors off of all expectations. No one thought it was going to sell anything like this. They thought maybe it'll sell 500,000 copies in its lifetime kind of thing, right? At its peak, it was selling 300,000 copies a week, 1.2 million copies a month. One of the biggest albums of all time, sales-wise to this day, with like, I don't know, it must be getting close to 40 million units, like between 35 and 40 million sales on this album. That's just crazy. So yeah, this album really made record companies sort of reevaluate their approach. And it's like, we want you guys to go out there and sign all these bands in Seattle and find the next big thing. We want a huge, it's got to just rip the face off of everybody and just, massive sales right out of the gate. We want these returns right now. So that's a lot of pressure on artists and on management and all that kind of stuff, right? And Cobain, I mean, I never met the guy. I don't know what his reasons were for doing what he did, unfortunately, in 1994 when he took his own life. But he was obviously a really troubled guy, and maybe that played on him, where it's like, well, I just wanted to play in kind of a punky pop band and have a bit of fun and whatever it was, and now all of a sudden I'm regarded as this massive icon that has all this stuff put upon him by the media and by the fans and by other bands and all this stuff. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened because of this record. So we're gonna do several songs from this tonight, and I hope you stay tuned for it. It's just a monumental album. and I absolutely love it. The melody, the guitar sounds, the energy. It's like this amalgamation of pure pop melodies with like really dissonant angular chord structures and just furious pummeling. It's really cool. I mean, everyone knows this album, as I say. I'm sure you've all heard it a million times, right? But yeah, just a bit of an album anniversary, September 24th, 1991. I remember my first backpacking trip in Europe, and it was 1992, so the summer of 92, about 7 months after this album was released. I remember getting off the plane in London, taking a train down to Piccadilly Circus, walking around, finding a youth hostel, and this album was being cranked like non-stop in this hostel. And everywhere I went for the next 3 months in Europe, everybody was listening to Nevermind. It was just such a phenomenon, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I don't remember if I had heard it up to that. I'd probably heard, Smells Like Teen Spirit or something before I took that trip, but I was well familiar with the album by the end of that 3 months, I tell you that. So we are going to start with Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I hope you stay tuned, and let's have some fun. This is Nevermind by Nirvana on Become the Music.